Ladies and gentlemen, it's go time. There is no better way to close the weekend and go in to the week upcoming and speaking with somebody that I've really been excited to have on here for quite a while. We've been talking about him over the past few weeks. He is going to be a part of a huge match that is upcoming in the LWF, which is going to decide who will be the next opponent for the reigning, defending LWF World Champion, our top of the table, Ronaldo. And our guest here tonight is somebody that's he's jumped off a few tables and he's definitely used some people on the battlefield, to say the least. And really, really excited to have him on. He's one of the more energetic and exciting people in the LWF. He is a part of the group Shining Wizard, which we have talked about quite a bit here on the show over the past few weeks and few months. And he is also 1/3 of that match here for the World Championship to decide who will Ronaldo face off. So without further ado, here on the Sports Report, the #1 global sports show, one part of Shining Wizard, and that is Aiton Steen. My friend, welcome aboard.
How you doing? You all right? How's things?
I'm great. I think I'm feeling pretty good right now that I've got you, my friend. Really, really excited here to have the opportunity to speak with you, share your story and journey. And you're a part of a huge match upcoming here at the LWF's Lancashire Riot. You are going to be in that match that we just talked about here. A triple threat for the LWF World Championship to decide our reigning defending champion, Ronaldo's next opponent. You'll be in the ring with Soner Derson, the Turkish Wolf. And Soner Derson, we've spoke about quite a bit here on the show. We'll see the condition that he's going to be in, obviously, after what the natural born fighter RP Davis did to him. Also, Nick Cutter, a man you have definitely quite a history with. So set the tables for everybody watching and listening to this, Aiton, and what we can expect next weekend in your match to decide who will Ronaldo face for his next opponent for the LWF World Championship.
Yeah, I imagine it's hard to know what to expect going into this match. I've never faced on him before. He trained me like really early on when I started training. Sona was one of the coaches I had. Although I didn't spend as much time training under him as I'd like to. But yeah, he's insanely talented. I've been watching a lot of his matches back, just getting in, research for this match, and yeah, he's incredible. He's a champion, isn't he? He's been around. He's Future Shock World Champion. He's TNT Ignition Champion.
Yep.
And he's been on WWE Raw as well.
So, yeah, he's been all over the place. I mean, you think of a promotion. I mean, he's pretty much been there. He's one of the elder statesmen, you could say, quote unquote, of the wrestling scene for sure.
I'm really excited to wrestle somewhere. But I've also been asking lots of wrestlers about him. Just again getting in training for this match. And then Nick, yeah, I've wrestled Nick before, but way too briefly, unfortunately, which was 100% down to him. So yeah, that was a couple of months ago. Like it was October Overload.
Yep.
Nick, I was just after Nick had joined the Wrecking Crew, and we had a multi-man match it was a scramble match, the #1 contendership then, and it was my boy Nathan Gunn, my boy Conrad Blades, and then who else? It was we had JJ Webb. He's incredible. Lachlan Sharp, he's absolutely.
Yeah, Lachlan Sharp is another guy. I mean, he's going to be a part of a huge matchup coming also on the card here for sure.
Absolute babe. I love Lachlan Sharp. And then J Mac, John McKinney.
Boy, I think you know about what we're about to say in a little while, because I actually have an announcement regarding John McKinney, but we'll stay tuned for that. Yeah, well, I'm going to break it, so we'll hang on tight there for a little while when it comes to John McKinney.
I hate to love that guy, but I do. It's just not a gimmick for him.
It's not a gimmick. He can really play his instruments. He can really play and sing. He's probably at a club right now somewhere in the UK, probably playing.
Getting harassed by loads of middle-aged women
It's almost like a Def Leppard concert. Listen, it's a mini Def
Sorry,
Leppard
Jay,
concert when it comes to John
Sorry,
McKinney, right?
Jay, sorry. Yeah, but yeah, and then the other person was that everybody in that match. Yeah, that was everyone in that
No,
match.
it's just you guys are. It's just 3 of you. I know it feels like 30 or
Yeah.
40 different people because you rattled off names and many names. I think at this point that have either been on the show or have been referenced. But obviously, I want to go back to Sona Derson, and I'll get to Mr. Cutter because Mr. Cutter is definitely certainly a polarizing figure these days in the LWF. But Ronaldo knows Sona Derson very well. He has a history with him. And I'm almost curious and tempted to ask you this question just because obviously you touched upon some of the history with Sona Derson. And Sona Derson, his career goes back to when Ronaldo was the future Shock Wrestling World Champion. That was the last time he was a world champion. So I almost hate to ask you this question because you might actually be facing Ronaldo after next weekend. But is that one of the guys maybe that you would ask for advice on a Sona Derson? Because Ronaldo's going to know him probably better than anybody would in the LWF's roster.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, Ronaldo saw him coming up, whereas I've got the opposite side of it. Sona's seen me training, so it's Ronaldo's definitely got a better handle of like Sona's fundamentals, whereas I just have to kind of muddle it together, watch his matches, and see if there's any weaknesses there. But to be honest with you, he's pretty tight. There's nothing. He doesn't give much away. But then the other like element is Nick. Nick in this match, it's like the thing is a triple threat match. I not got that much love for Nick at the moment, but like in a triple threat match, even your enemy can be your ally. So he could be the difference maker there. Is in like terms of taking away Sona's offense, breaking up pins, all of that. It's pretty much anyone's game, a triple threat.
Interesting you said something there in the fact that you and Mr. Cutter have definitely been no allies, to say the least. You and him are on 2 different sides of the coin, but almost just for the purposes of this match, because of Sona Derson, his strength, what he brings to the table. Am I hearing this correctly, Aiton, that even in this match, who knows, for a minute or 2, or could be spots in the match that you and Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew could even be allies here?
It could happen. I'm not saying that's not my game
All
plan.
right. I was going to say, I was like, wow, all right, you and Mr. Cutter are going to be allies. I'm sure Shining Wizard would be very happy to hear that.
It's all opportunistic. I mean, when the moment takes me, Sona will might be my ally at one point in my match, and then later Nick.
All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense.
If Sona's up and moving, you've got to shut him down as quickly as possible. And if I need Nick's help to do that, opportunistically at the time, I definitely will do that. It's got to be done to win the match. But I would rather be pinning Nick than pinning Sona. That makes sense.
Okay, all right. You know what? I mean, listen, I would rather have a win over Sona Derson because he's Sona Derson. I mean, I would want to have that on my resume because, listen, take a step back here, Aiton. A win over Sona Derson is a big, big deal. People will talk about that all over the world, frankly. That's a huge boost going into a potential match against Ronaldo where you would have a pinfall victory over Sona Derson. What kind of momentum that would be? You almost have to take a step back and say, listen, Nick Cutter and the Wrecking Crew, they definitely speak for themselves. The dominance, the destruction that they've laid upon the roster here in the LWF, we know all about it. We've spoke about it here for months. You have certainly quite a history at Mr. Cutter. There is, all kidding aside, no love between you and him and the rest of the Wrecking Crew. Davey Ghetzky, Chris Shaw, our tag team champions. But a win over Sona Derson, you think about that, ladies and gentlemen. There aren't too many men that can say they've beat Sona Derson and beat him in a number 1 contenders match for a world championship. I mean, I would, if I'm you, I would want the victory over Sona Derson to go into the match with Ronaldo because you're going to be the guy that's going to have the clear momentum.
I get that, and I agree with you in some sense, but in another sense, you're underestimating how much I want to pin Nick Cutter.
Oh, I know you don't like Nick Cutter. We've talked about the LWF in depth here over the past 5 or 6 months with Nate Reese, Stephen Cross, pretty much everybody here in the roster. We've had Ronaldo on here twice. I'm sure you're aware of that. I mean, there isn't really anybody, I think, on this roster that we haven't had on yet. We may have an announcement or two related to some of that, but obviously, again, I know you don't like Nick Cutter, but Soda Derson is a guy that speaks for himself. Again, here's a guy that he's been in the ring with every big name you can think of. Here's a guy that's been on WWE Raw. This is a guy, again, when I think of wrestlers over the past 15 years that identify with this scene, that have gone on to have had the success that he's had, there's very few people that can match it. That's why I say that would be a huge boost, not only going into the match with Ronaldo, but also for your career.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. It's definitely true. Like I say, how you think about it?
Well, I got a better idea. I got a better one. You're going to laugh. How about simultaneously, because we do know that Roman Reigns last year at WrestleMania stacked Edge and Daniel Bryan at the time. Maybe you could pin both at the same time, Nick Cutter and Soda Derson. So, I mean, listen, you could always say that because there is still a possibility for that, you know.
Yeah, well, man. If I could pin both at the same time, that would be absolutely amazing. But I'm...
Well, then Ronaldo, and as much as we love Ronaldo, he would be a deep doo-doo. I can tell you.
Do that. If Soda Derson hits his big Sun Nizar frog splash on Nick, and then I hit the bomb scare knee drop on top of Soda,
they both are down at the same time. They're both staggered, and you can catch them in a 1, 2, 3, ding, 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 ding. So listen, it could happen. It could definitely happen. And these are the reasons why, again, we are very honored to have on Aiton Steen here, who, again, is part of, again, I think one of the more exciting matches you're going to have here this month. It's February the 12th. It's next Saturday for the LWF's Lancashire Riot. He is going to be in a triple threat match here against Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew and Soda Derson, the Turkish Wolf. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And I want to thank everybody that is watching us on several different outlets right now: Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, also on Twitter at my Twitter at Thomas Price 2017. And we are talking with Aiton Steen. Aiton, I want to get into the match still for a little bit because there are a couple different things I want to get into. The first thing I want to get into, and I'm curious about this, have you ever been in a triple threat match also for a championship? That's also always an interesting thing I got to ask.
I've been in multi-man matches before, but I've never been in a triple threat match. Like I said before, we had the 6-man, the number one contender. But I've been in a number one contender match before, which was that one. I've been in another number one contender match a long time ago. That was a different championship. But the number one contender match that we had last time, the 6-man, was after
the 6-pack challenge, you could call it almost.
Yeah, it was. They call it a scramble, actually. I think Ring of Honor style scramble, and in that, at that match, I came up with the win. Actually, at that match,
we're aware of it.
And it was Nick Cutter that came out after the match and challenged me to put my number one contendership on the line because he felt he was still the number one contender. Because he had the Castle Cup at the time.
Yep.
And it was I wouldn't have accepted that match because that's absolutely daft. But he got Big Ron from Shining Wizard, taped him up, and threatened to break his leg unless I took the match. So I did. I got to sign the match. But I'd just been through a 6-man, a 6-pack challenge, as you said, and my ribs were absolutely destroyed. I took like a Vader, like you said, like stacking up Soda and Nick. I took a Vader bomb off J-Mac while I was on top of Nathan Gunn, and it just completely shattered one of my ribs. Well, it wasn't that bad, but it just like it absolutely felt like my ribs had exploded. And then I also took a buckle bomb off JJ, and I was just like absolutely out of it by the time I had to have that match with Cutter. And the match went about 5 minutes, and it was kind of academic from the start. I tried to go back. I got him in a couple of submission holds. I got him in like the knee bar, but he just got the better of me. He went for the ribs constantly. Obviously, seeing I was just like doubled over for half the match, and then he put me down to go to sleep. And yeah, that stung. That stung because like I just won the number one contendership and lost it in 5 minutes, and I was just like, this is mad.
There's always scenarios in wrestling where somebody wins the world championship and they hold it for, I don't know, a few minutes or less than a minute. I mean, obviously, most famously yesterday was the anniversary of when Andre the Giant won the world championship from Hulk Hogan and then gave it to the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase. So, I mean, there are instances for a world title, but for a number one contender to lose it in a matter of minutes, I'm trying to think if I've seen a scenario or recall one. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure there are people watching this that maybe can fact check me on that. Also, want to give a shout out to the owner of the LWF that is watching this, Mr. Steve Bibby, because he is happy to see us speaking. And I almost have to interrupt, and we'll get back to some of the match here, because there are a few different things I want to get into here. But you got to talk to me then about Steve Bibby and what he means to you.
Steve's great. I love Steve. Steve Bibby's an absolute legend, man. He, I love generally. I love wrestling at LWF. I wrestled at a couple of companies now, and the vibe in the locker room and the training with LWF is amazing. Like it's like no other place. It is like a family atmosphere, and it's the right amount of business, as in we've got a job to do. We're going to be wrestling and putting on great matches, and the right amount of we're also having a laugh and we're here to have a good time. That's the point at the end of the day. So it is great, and that's down mainly to Steve and Mikey, definitely, because they're the kind of heart of LWF. And Steve, everyone loves Steve.
I know who doesn't like Steve Bibby. Seriously, I mean, who doesn't like him? I mean, listen, he's the only owner that I know that actually gives personal handwritten notes to their wrestlers. I don't think Vince McMahon's doing that. I don't think Tony Khan's doing that. I don't think Billy Corgan's doing that. Steve Bibby is doing that though.
I love those little notes. They're so good. I love them. A little yellow paper. It's like, Oh, Steve. He's bloody lovely. I love him.
Steve's awesome. Steve is a great guy, and it was a tremendous honor to have him here on the show about, I'd say, maybe a month or so ago. So very, very excited to have on Steve Bibby. And Mikey Fitzgerald will be back with us tomorrow night, 9 p.m. British Standard Time. In fact, Mikey messaged me saying that gives his regards to you. He's going to bed early, so he's going to catch this in the morning, and then I'm sure we'll reference you quite a bit. But obviously, really, really excited to have Mikey Fitzgerald. We're going to have Mikey on, I think, every month before an upcoming event. So really, really excited about Mikey Fitzgerald. We'll get to him. But I want to get to a couple of different things here in this match, because obviously we know you have Shining Wizard, but we also know that Mr. Cutter has the Wrecking Crew, and the tag team champions of Davey Ghetzky and Chris Shaw, and the way they looked at the Winter of Discontent, the way they've looked here over the past several months, I would certainly want to keep my eyes very much close on the Wrecking Crew. You do have Shining Wizard, but I am going to ask you, are you concerned about the possibility that the Wrecking Crew could interfere in this match and possibly tip the scales in the favor for Mr. Cutter?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm always concerned about the Wrecking Crew. I know Davey and Chris quite well. I've had several run-ins with Davey.
Everybody's had run-ins with Mr. Ghetzky at this point. I think that's safe to say.
But the thing is, I hate putting these guys over. I know, yeah, but I guess there comes a time you've got to, I guess it's great, recognized, great, but Davey, I do love to wrestle him because he's so nasty and so horrible. If I challenge himself, I love wrestling him. He's just such a nasty guy. I love wrestling because we do wrestle a similar style. He's just a bit dirtier than I am. Both very like lots of strikes and lots of submissions. Lots of mat wrestling, but Davey, I remember I came up with Davey. I think we started training around about the same time as well, and like we've been like really good mates before. But there's always the undercurrent of like, this guy's going to do anything, like he's going to stab you in the back if he can. So, you're always.
But you know what, though? In one sense, he does what it takes to win. We had Nathan Gunn on last week, right? And Nathan Gunn, love Nathan Gunn. You referenced him. We'll get to Nathan Gunn. But you know what? We all love Nathan Gunn. But you know what, though? Davey Ghetzky, he's doing, in a sense, what a wrestler's supposed to do. He's finding ways to get the job done. Maybe it's not the most honest way. Maybe it's not what the fans want. But you know what? What matters is who won and who lost. And at the end of the day, Ghetzky has done a good job with that. And he was here. He actually interrupted the scenario Nathan Gunn. And he came on and he lifted up that tag team championship that he has. So you know what? Maybe it's time to give the devil his due a little bit. And I'm not saying that I'm fully agree with everything the Wrecking Crew does, because Stephen Cross has obviously had his history with them, and Stephen Cross, we'll get to it in a little while. But you know what? Mr. Ghetzky, he finds ways to get the job done, and maybe he should get some credit for that.
I agree with you. I do give him credit. I give him credit for it. Like, I give him credit for his wrestling. Like, I'll give him credit for being smart. But the truth is sometimes is that David Ghetzky is an amazing talent. And when you take shortcuts, you get lazy. Like, Ghetzky could be an incredible talent, but he thinks he needs to take these shortcuts, and he doesn't need to take these shortcuts. He just needs to commit to winning that match without using his mates. And it's annoying, because the truth is it's only going to hurt him at the end of the day. He could be greater than he is. I think one day he will be, but at the moment he keeps getting his friends involved in matches, and it's just sad, because there's always going to be an asterisk next to every one of those wins he has. And yeah, okay, he's the inaugural tag team champions. That's amazing. But how much better would it be if he just won them clean and showed everybody that he's as tough as he says he is?
You could make the argument. Now, you could make that argument, but you could say, now, you're different because we know that you got a very good shot to win upcoming next week, and you've had a lot of success. But you know what? And we love Nathan Gunn to death. We've had him on here 3 times. He has been a great fan, a great supporter of ours, and I love watching him in the ring. But you know what? Nathan Gunn's done it the right way. He hasn't won many matches. Ghetzky's got a championship. So you know what? You could say, well, what if he tried it and did it the right way? Listen, we're going to get to Wildfire Nate Reese. Here's another guy, right, that he did it the honest way. He did it the right way for all these years. And Bob Costin and him had a huge problem. And now he's turned a new leaf, Wildfire Nate Reese, and he's a changed man. So you know what? Doing it the right way, you've done it. It's worked for you. But maybe for Mr. Ghetzky, it wouldn't have worked for him. You could make that case.
You could make that case. You can make that case for him. I mean, Nathan has come up short with these matches, but he also has had wins. And I know what you're saying, but at the same time, someone like Ronaldo, again, who is
Ronaldo, love Ronaldo.
We all love Ronaldo.
That's true too.
Yes, someone like Ronaldo who's fought constantly and fought against massive odds against the Wrecking Crew, and then eventually me and Shine Wizard stepped in to help him with that, because we were just like, this is ridiculous. We can't let that. And but Rey's won that. Rey's the champion now, and he's the champion off his own back. He's a champion without taking shots.
And he beat Jack Roberts at the Winter Discontent, so he proved that it was no fluke. So Ronaldo, I mean, it was, I don't want to say it was a novelty, because he's literally got the 12th man and the 13th man when it comes to that crowd there in Clory. But you think about Ronaldo now, I mean, he's now in a position where you're going to be chasing him if you win this match. And you guys obviously did the right thing. And Ronaldo and Nick Cutter and the Wrecking Crew, their history speaks for itself. But now you could be in that position of squaring off with Ronaldo if things work out in your favor. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead. I don't want to jump ahead when it comes to Ronaldo, but have you scouted and watched Ronaldo matches of late? How much have you maybe looked at that match between him and Cutter? Because Cutter, when he was on here, should let you know, because you're going to be in the ring with Mr. Cutter coming up next weekend. Mr. Cutter said, quote unquote, that he took the ball off what it came down to Ronaldo and him. He didn't take Ronaldo as seriously as he should have. So,
Yeah.
Ronaldo, you can't fall into the same trap because he's the champion now. He holds a victory over Cutter. So, I almost have to ask you, I mean, have you thought about and played out a scenario, you versus Ronaldo?
I've thought about it for a while. I mean, I think about it when I watch Rey's matches, but I'm always watching Rey's matches with a view of, how good he is, and and maybe one day I'll be taking him on. But I wouldn't look past this match on Saturday, because that's what I'm concentrating on now.
Oh, you can. You got two tough opponents, and Castle Cup winner Nick Cutter and Sona Derson. So, I mean, listen, this is no picnic. This is not as if like you're facing off against two nobodies. You're facing off against two very, very, very important people.
But yeah, but I mean, like I've watched Rey for a while, and I would be like absolutely remiss if I didn't do some research before that match if it came to it. But at the moment, I can't take it for granted that I'm going to get past Nick and Sona.
All right, let me ask you a question, and I'm going to reference Ronaldo, and since you did talk about the fact at the Fight Man for Christmas, you were a big part of helping Ronaldo even the odds against the Wrecking Crew. And we know what the Wrecking Crew has done with the LWF. And I also want to thank somebody that just shared our video on Facebook. That is Carol Russo. And I've known Carol for a very, very long time. So thank you, Mrs. Russo, for the shout out and the sharing the video. I really, really appreciate anybody that shares our videos, especially on Facebook. So thank you, Mrs. Russo, for that. And again, Carol has been a very, very great supporter of mine for a long time. So really appreciate anybody here in the States sharing something here in the UK. But you were a part of that match against Ronaldo in a way to even the odds for Ronaldo, to help him win the championship against Nick Cutter. That match, in terms of being a part of it, what did that mean to you to see Ronaldo win the championship after everything he had went through?
Oh yeah, it felt great. It really did. It felt amazing to see Rey finally get that big win, because he'd been trying so hard for so long, and he kept getting screwed out of it. And it was getting to the point where it was like, even though he'd been screwed so many times, it was kind of his last chance, because you can't keep having the same match. You can't keep having the same person going for the title. And
Right.
so that was really Ronaldo's last chance. And being against Nick, I couldn't stand to see Nick winning the title and holding that up after everything him and the Wrecking Crew did, and after he'd screwed me out of my opportunity. So it was amazing. It was so good to see. Like I remember I didn't see him win the title. I heard it because I was just laying on the floor at the time.
Well, we saw everybody. It was almost like a bomb scene where everybody was just fighting with each other left and right, and then obviously we get into the fact where everybody lifts Ronaldo up. It was almost like Jesus being lifted up in a sense for some people in the LWF. I mean, that was something. I mean, I don't know if I've seen that before in a wrestling scene for a championship the way. I mean, we saw Bret Hart with Yokozuna, but it was almost after the match. This was literally a part of the match. Everybody that was a part of the match kind of came out and lifted Ronaldo and hoisted him up. I mean, that could be you, Aiton. Listen, Aiton, if you beat Ronaldo, I mean, I'm sure Shining Lizard, Helena and Big Ron and everybody else, they're going to do that for you as well, possibly. I mean, that's why I wanted to ask you. I mean, have you thought about, you know what? That could be me.
Yeah, most definitely. I think about it all the time. I think about holding that title up. I think about celebrating with Wizard and everyone, all my friends, Nathan Blazing Guns, Even Rey himself, even if I did beat Rey for the title, I'm sure he'd be the first to, knowing Rey, he'd be the first to offer me his hand, you know.
He's a good man. He's a very good man. Legitimately, I honestly can't say that about too many people, but he's a good man. Ronaldo is just a good man.
So, yeah, I do. I think about it all the time. But again, I would never take it for granted. You know, you don't want to get too excited about things, you know.
No, not in your case, my friend. Listen, certainly in your case, I would definitely not take anything for granted. And we are talking all things related here to the LWF's upcoming Lancashire Riot. Have I said Lancashire Riot? I think I've almost got it now.
Yeah,
I think.
You mispronounced. Sorry, I feel like I shouldn't call you out on it, but you mispronounced Chorley, not Corley.
Surely. I appreciate that because you know what? I have to say Helena Reyes, we'll get to Helena in a few minutes. Helena actually was the person that kind of helped me get over the hurdle and finally figure out how to pronounce it. Because Wildfire Nate Reese, I mean, he can talk as good as anybody. He was trying to help me, and it was like I still couldn't get it. I would listen to Cross. I couldn't get it. Bibby, Ronaldo. I mean, I've rattled off so many other names. I still couldn't figure it out, but it took Helena Razor to figure that out for me. But obviously, again, Aiton is going to be a part of a huge match coming up here for the Lancashire Riot. That is going to be when it comes to Saturday next weekend. It is going to be him against Nick Cutter and Sona Derson to decide who will face our reigning defending champion, Ronaldo, for that championship at the next event. I am the host of the Sports Report, the station manager here of Sportzwire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Got to give a plug here to the LWF because if you like what you hear from the LWF, give the LWF a follow on Twitter at LWF Thought, Instagram, the LWF Wrestling. Also, Facebook, like the LWF's page. Subscribe to our YouTube page here at the LWF. Also, give a follow to Aiton Steen on Instagram because I can assure you he's going to be a guy that you're going to be seeing a lot from here in 2022, regardless of the outcome of his match. And if you like what you hear from us on Sportswire Radio, please give us a like on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. Also, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great shows anytime on sportnarium.com/player. You can also catch us now on Roku as a part of the Northeast Streaming Sports channel. You can catch us there Saturday nights. That'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 a.m. British Standard Time. We should be replaying this show with Aiton sometime tomorrow night there, British Standard Time. So very, very excited for that. Also want to thank John and Linda McGrath for their support as well. And also we will have more LWF coverage tomorrow night, 9 p.m. British Standard Time with Mikey Fitzgerald. So we'll be speaking, I'm sure, a lot about this match with Mikey and breaking down the rest of the card. So very, very excited about that. We'll also have an announcement in a little while regarding a guest here upcoming Wednesday night, and Aiton kind of gave it away a little bit on who that wrestler might be, so I'm sure Mr. Steen's going to be very curious who that is, but we're going to let it hang for a bit. We're going to leave a tease still, so we'll bring him up in a little while. All I can say is he's definitely got some musical taste and a real musical background, so that's all I'm going to say, but we are certainly talking all things related here to the world of LWF and more with Mr. Aiton Steen, who's going to be a part of a huge match, and he very well could be our next LWF World Champion if things go in his favor. Aiton, I want to ask you this question. I always ask it to everybody here that watches because we do have a lot of people around the world and in the United States who doesn't quite know who Aiton Steen is. So I want to ask it. We'll come back to more LWF coverage here in a few minutes, but I got to ask you, how'd you get into wrestling?
Oh, right. Well, I loved it when I was really young, like when I must have been about 8, maybe. I was about 8.
Okay.
And, like I think it was my cousin gave me a VHS of I think it was Bad Blood, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels.
Oh, okay.
And I watched that match, like, and it was funny. It's like years later. Obviously, back then I didn't know anything about Dave Meltzer or Dirt Sheets or anything like that. Like looking back, like like seeing like that was a rated 5-star match because I watched that and I was like, this is amazing. This is one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. One of the best things I've ever seen. Like I didn't even watch much wrestling then, but
Sure.
Then from that, like that one amazing match, like I just got into it and I started watching Raw every week. And I just got really into it. After a while, and then in my interest dipped a bit, like when I got slightly older, and then like I remember one day just I was home when I was like I was like changing jobs and I had like a bit of a gap in employment. And I do like quite a physical job. So I was like, oh, I'm not really doing anything physical. I need to like find some like form of exercise or something. So I just signed up for this wrestling course, and I just ended up doing it. And like I loved it, and I just kept doing it and just never stopped because I was just like, this is amazing. This is so good. It's like there's so much to it, and so much more than I like realized. I just kept going with it. I was just like, this is amazing. And I just got obsessed with wrestling. Like just go down the rabbit hole, and it was like like before that time, before I started training, I'd maybe only really watched WWE, the WCW, a bit of ECW.
Yeah, Mikey and I spoke a lot about ECW because I'm sure you're aware of Mikey loves ECW. And I'm from New York, and I had sort of a front row seat to ECW, and I remember being a kid. ECW was still at the tail end of its run. So, I mean, you mentioned VHSs, and I was speaking with Mikey when he came on last month, and I had talked about the fact that I actually remember getting into ECW through VHSs and then finding it. Here in New York, we have a channel called the Madison Square Garden Network, and that's where I found ECW, and the rest was history. So, I mean, it kind of mirrors, I think, what a lot of wrestlers here have gone through in terms of just finding different stuff. And you're like, wow, like, how do I get into this stuff? And you kind of did it.
Yeah. Mikey's legit a valuable resource for me in terms of like match study and stuff like that. Because he is a wealth of information of
He's
wrestling.
almost like, I almost have to equate him. He's almost like what Mike Tenay was for WCW and later TNA, because Mike Tenay was the professor, right? Mike Tenay would talk about like a match in like 1979, and he would talk about every hold. Mikey Fitzgerald could probably do the same thing, I'm pretty sure.
Because I was obviously I couldn't make the last LWF show. I was meant to be wrestling in the tag tournament alongside Clash, but I was medically cleared. So I've been out. I was out for like over a month. And me and Mikey just like swap matches back and forth because I was just like, man, I need to I need to like do something wrestling related. I need to like keep my mind active with it. And do some match study. So yeah, me and him, and I feel like there's a few other people I was trading matches with, but like Mikey was the most prominent one who traded the most like obscure matches where I was just like, this is so sick. It's so good. I was like, yeah, it's so good. I learned a lot of stuff from those matches. So yeah, it's so good.
Who were some of the wrestlers that you maybe either looked up to, or maybe you figured out who you'd want to hone your craft after?
Yeah, definitely. There's a couple of different answers to it. Originally, like when I first started watching wrestling, my two favorites were Shawn Michaels and Kane, because I was like,
I
like
always
Kane.
liked Kane. Believe it or not, I always liked Kane because I always thought that Kane, you could see him in almost any type of match, and he always had a good match. I mean, he wasn't obviously The Rock, he wasn't The Undertaker, he wasn't Stone Cold, but he was always to me like right underneath them and could still be believable to beat them. So I always liked Kane in the Attitude Era.
I liked Kane because I was 8 years old, and I was like, when I first started watching wrestling, and I watched Bad Blood and Kane's debut. I just loved like the mystique and stuff around it, and the kind of like the whole shtick of the Undertaker's brother was burnt in a house fire, and he's come back and he's this monster who wants revenge. I loved it. I was just like, this is so cool. Like it's so mad and so pro wrestling, but I was just like, this is so cool. And now I did also love the way he wrestled, but I always wished he had his own finisher. Like I always wanted him to just not use a choke slam or a tombstone. I was like, just do something a little bit. Than the Undertaker, but and then like when I started watching wrestling again properly, when I started just before I started training, I kind of went down, went down a completely different road, watching more Ring of Honor stuff, more NJPW, and then AJPW, and then I ended up with Noah. I went like to really serious territory of wrestling. So then coming back to it, like Kevin Steen, obviously, like part of my namesake in a way.
Well, I could say I wasn't going to mention it.
So he's incredible in Ring of Honor. It's part of that's the kind of hardcore side of what I like wrestling wise, and the kind of innovative way of making up really nasty moves. Shout out to the Steen Eliza, but a move that I will never take off anyone. But then it's like, I went to New Japan and Noah and stuff like that, and a big one that like at the moment that like I'm just watching loads of matches of because it's just I feel like he's the style that I go for that works best with me, and it's Kenta. I just think Kenta is incredible. One of my favorite matches of all time is Kenta versus Kenta Kobashi.
Sure.
It's incredible how a small guy without doing the kind of flippy stuff like Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio was another one of my favorites when I was younger.
Rey Mysterio, to me, it's like, how is this guy not aged? Rey Mysterio is still doing big spots in matches. I was watching him last week on Raw, and it's like, I don't know how he's still doing. I remember him as a kid, WCW 20 plus years ago, having matches with like Juventud Guerrero and Billy Kidman, and obviously everything with him and Eddie and WWE later on. And you look at Rey Mysterio, and it's like he's almost 50 years old, and he's still moving the way he is. It's incredible.
I remember watching Rey at a time when we could only get in England. You could watch. I think you could watch Raw, but you had to pay for it on Sky Sports.
I've heard that from a number of different people.
We didn't have like cable TV in my house or Sky, so I used to go around to my friend's house who had cable. But he only had like TNT was like he didn't have like Sky Sports or anything like that. So he had TNT, and you got the first hour of WCW, and then you had to like pay for the rest, or you had to have like another channel for the rest, which was mad. You never knew how it ended. But I remember Rey Mysterio was obviously always in like some of the opening bouts, and even back then when I was, I must have been dead young, I would have been about 8 years old. And even then, he was just jobbing. He was jobbing to everyone. He was jobbing to Chris Jericho. He was jobbing to everyone else. But like I knew he was better than everybody else. Like, I was 8 years old. It's like, but his talent shined through. Like I was like, he's the best. Like he's definitely the best wrestler they've got. Like, and he's jobbing because he's small. I maybe even knew that when I was a kid. But it's like you could see he was the best wrestler, and I loved him because I was just like, he's better than everyone else.
And that was with WCW. What their hallmark was that WCW had a large roster of cruiserweights, where WWF at the time, which is WWE, they didn't really have that. They didn't really have anybody on their roster that was small. Really, the only small wrestlers that they had on the roster were quote unquote Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, as an example. And they're not cruiserweights. I mean, even Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart, they were believable as heavyweights. The WWF didn't really have the cruiserweights, but WCW had Chavo Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero, Juventud. Chris Jericho sort of treaded the line at the time. Dean Malenko. I mean, you had a number of different people. Psychosis. You had Billy Kidman later on. You had a number of different wrestlers that made up the cruiserweight division. And that's what kind of, I think, had some believability. And wow, WCW could be a cool thing to watch. And why a lot of wrestlers like you, who might be maybe like between the ages of like 22 and like 35, like me in the same age range, always thought of WCW, its versatility. And I'm going to give you a wrestler, and I want to get back to some LWF stuff, but I see you painted F a little bit in terms of what you do, especially that stage dive move earlier last year. And you almost remind me a little bit of Jeff Hardy, a little bit, what you do to the ring. I mean, I'm sure you've heard that comparison as well. And Jeff Hardy, obviously, later on, when WWE kind of expanded a little bit into some different versatility for their wrestlers, I see a little bit of Jeff Hardy in you. Is that fair to say?
Definitely, I love the Hardy Boys. I love Jeff Hardy. Well, I think when I first fantasized about myself as a wrestler when I was like in high school, like Jeff Hardy would be the person I kind of saw, like the person I would have like modeled myself after.
Sure.
So like definitely like Jeff Hardy, I absolutely loved him. He was like a risk taker, but he was also like cool in a kind of like in the kind of new metal sense at the time, which is like what I was into.
Yeah, because they had they had kind of like the almost like not 80s, but sort of like the maybe alternative look, goth
Like
look, almost very gothic, like very pure, very like almost like new wave-ish, Depeche Mode almost in a sense.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, definitely. It was. I thought they were absolutely incredible. When like the ladder match from WrestleMania X7 was just that was one of the best matches I've seen like ever. Like when I was younger as well. Seeing Edge spear was it? I think it was it Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy who speared him off,
You
hanging
know,
off.
I think it was Jeff. I almost want to say, from what I remember, it was Jeff. I want to say WrestleMania
Yeah, but
17.
like hitting the spear was just incredible. That pop, the flash photography as well at the time. It's like you don't get that anymore, but it was. It's just moments like that that make it. Like it's why I did the balcony.
Well, that was the first thing I thought of. And in fact, I think Nate Reese and I talked about it. I want to say because that was in September. So I want to say we might have talked about that in October. And that was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, wow, that stage dive move, for whatever reason, reminded me of something that like Jeff Hardy would have did. I mean, I realize some of the other wrestlers you referenced are certainly, I could see that in who you modeled off. But I mean, Jeff Hardy, I mean, I think he's definitely somebody that I see a little bit in you as well.
I always wanted to be like in my mind the mixture of like the two styles of wrestling I like, which are like half really like serious, makes sense, amazing wrestling, so like Kenta, pro wrestling Noah kind of style, and then half daft attitude era stuff. But also like hardcore stuff. So like the hardcore attitude era stuff. And if I can mesh them together in a way that makes sense, I'll be very happy.
Well, you've definitely tried your best for that. I mean, well, you're definitely trying. I mean, it seems like you're having some success with that, and
I am trying.
well,
But
you're
yeah,
trying, and that's why we're happy that you are trying, and you're happy that you are providing us so much excitement here and energy. And speaking of things that provide us energy and excitement, that brings me to Shining Wizard. I mean, you guys are definitely our heavy metal group here. Are definitely, I mean, Stephen Cross spoke about you guys quite a bit when he was in the ring with you guys a few months back, and we'll talk about the music in a second, but I do want to talk about Shining Wizard and why have you guys had so much fun and why have you guys had so much success as a group?
well, I think I think it's because we genuinely just like being around each other. I love like those guys. I think they're great. Like I remember I came into Shining Wizard. It was so before lockdown. I did 2 shows, but there was maybe about 3 months. So it was maybe about 6 months before lockdown, maybe a little bit less. I came in to Shining Wizard from another promotion. I was very green, like very new. And it was at the time I was a trap rapper. I was an emo trap rapper. I was Lil Tony Rock, emo trap rapper. I was also obviously still a wrestler, but I was emo trap rapper, Lil Tony Rock, SoundCloud, and a lot. And it was someone just LWF, the old singer of Shining Wizard. Shining Wizard could be going for a lot longer. They'd been going for a while. I think Ron's the only original member as a drummer, and the singer was Kai Von Luscious, affectionately known as Kai Bosch Norris to myself. I don't know. I just think that's a better name. I was like, somebody misheard his name at some point. I thought it was Kai Bosch Norris, and I was like, that's a great name, Kai Bosch Norris. And it was like Kai Von Luscious, right? So Kai Von Luscious, and he was the original frontman. And then he, the rock star life, prima donna life of a rock star, Axl Rose style, just took his bat home and just slept off to like God knows where. Somebody asked me these guys at LWF, they need a singer, they need like a new bandmate, so like somebody who can wrestle some of the musical talent of any sort. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And you know, like in my head, I'll be honest, I'm going to be honest with everyone here because I think it's like just the best way to be. But I, in my head, also thinking as I was going, is like, I'll do this because it's a booking, but also, this is definitely a dead on arrival gimmick. Like, but I thankfully completely wrong. But I also, like, in my own head was also thinking, I was like, it's a challenge, let's try and see if I can make this work. I'm pretty confident I could. I was like, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to try and see, like, if I can change tiny little bits of things. See, I'll make this work. So anyway, like, I debuted in I think it was a 5 minute before Christmas. The last one we had, obviously, like, way before lockdown. I debuted in the raffle. It was really, like, the raffle is like a big thing at Elder. Stuff happens in the raffle. Nate Reese's stuff in the raffle and stuff like that.
Wow.
I debuted in the raffle. Beat down some absolute schmuck, like just like back him for running down Wizard, and sent him packing, and debuted as a new leader at Shining Wizard, face full of face tattoos and everything still. And then had them lasered off. Most of my face tattoos lasered off, and like slowly after that. Kind of eased into the kind of more natural gimmick I've got now, being the front man of Shining Wizard and just my own kind of take on Aiton Steen. I stuck with the name Little Tony Rock for a while as well, but I ultimately did want to change it, and it got to an opportunity where I was like, no, I need to do it now, because now or never. And Little Tony Rock was too associated with like my old gimmick and the old stuff we were doing.
I think Aiton Steen you did a better job with. I think you fit Aiton Steen more than you fit Little Tony Rock. I mean, I wasn't even going to ask you about being Little Tony Rock because I think at this point you should be Aiton Steen and stay.
Yeah,
Aiton,
so. But I mean, Little Tony Rock, man, the only reason I hung with that name so long though was because it did have like a kind of weird sentimental value because it was given to me by Dynamite Lee. Dynamite Lee Dawson gave me that name like way before any of us debuted. I just was having a training session, and he thought of it like it was just like some bolt out of the blue. Like it was just came to him like he's like some like evil, like some criminal genius. Like it just came into his mind. He was just like sweet. He called me Sweet Tony Rock. He was like, Sweet Tony Rock. Your name's Sweet Tony Rock, and I was like, everyone thought it was hilarious. So I was like, all right, I'm Sweet Tony Rock. And people used to sing Sweet Tony Rock ba, 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 when I was in the ring, the Sweet Caroline, and then it just like stuck. And then Tony Rock for the trap rapper gimmick. It was but so it had this sentimental value because Lee had given it to me. For
whatever reason, you don't. For whatever reason, and I know that the Wrecking Crew comes out to Iron Man, but you don't strike me coming out to Neil Diamond. I mean, I think that's a little bit like doesn't work for me.
Yeah, definitely not. But so I'm very happy to be Aiton Steen again now. So yeah.
I think you're doing a very good job as Aiton Steen as well. So clearly you made the right decision, and clearly Shining Wizard's very lucky to have you. So I'm almost tempted to ask, because I asked Helena this, and I'll get to Helena in a few minutes after this, but what are some of your musical influences and interests? I mean, you kind of touched upon some of it, but I'll ask it anyway, because Helena was like straight up. She knew like her heavy metal, and she listed off like Metallica and Motley Crue, and we were talking Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. I mean, she literally like knew her stuff. Like she knew the back catalogs of these bands. I mean, I almost have to ask you then, Aiton. I mean, since you guys are a musical act as well, I mean, give me some of your musical interests and such.
Again, I'm a straight shooter. Like, I mean, I'll tell you right now, when I came into Shining Wizard as an emo trap rapper, like listening to stuff like Lil Peep and and just like stuff like that, and Smart Death and all the stuff I was listening to at the time, trying to emulate. Like hair metal was not my forte. But I adopted it as my own because I was like, this is what these guys are into. This is the band I'm fitting into. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like make this work. So like I mean, it's not like just like hair metal. It's always just not my thing. I'm more like I was used to like 60s rock and stuff like that. a lot of rock and roll. Like,
I always liked Jimi Hendrix. I was always a big Jimi
yeah,
Hendrix fan.
yeah. Well, like also like my parents like always into like kind of like 60s Beatles, the Rolling Stones, stuff like that. So
Sure.
like I always did that stuff when I was growing up.
Sympathy for the Devil would have been good for you, by the way. Rolling
Yeah,
Stones.
yeah,
That would have been a good one for you. Sweet Caroline, Neil Diamond. But if you would have came out to Rolling Stones' Sympathy for the Devil, which Guns N' Roses later covered, I would have said that would have made sense for Aiton Steen. That would have been a cool one to come out.
That's a fair point. Then on top of that, then like I went through phases of like eclectic mix of music, the kind of stuff you go through as you're young. I like the really awful pop punk, and then I like hip hop and all that. Like I think the first like album I ever bought was I think the Offspring, and then the
When you said
one
pop punk, I knew automatically he's going to say "Pretty Fly for a White Guy" Offspring. I know it's coming up. I know it's coming.
It's like but then it was and then I bought like Dr. Dre was like the second album I bought, I think. No, it's like, music taste wise, and like recently, but now I've kind of got into just listening to like really, really trashy pop, man. You know what I mean? Like really like camp pop. I love it. I love a bit of Taylor Swift. I love a bit of
I like looking at Taylor Swift. I mean, I couldn't tell you I'm a Taylor Swift fan, but I could tell you I don't mind looking at Taylor Swift.
I'm a Doja Cat guy, man. I love a bit of Doja Cat. I love a bit of Doja Cat, but that's just I feel like that's just like a kind of symptom of the positive outlook I need of the world right now.
I feel like though that like everybody, regardless, like even if like Helena like knows her heavy metal, right? And Big Ron knows his heavy metal. But I feel like even if you're a fan of, let's say, one particular genre, I almost feel like whether you're a musician or not, that you almost listen to different things because music, it's all around us, right? So music, no matter, even if like you're a hip hop fan, you're an emo fan, or anything else, it's almost like music is around you. So you absorb some type of music, you absorb some type of it, and it influences you in some ways, whether it's through a moment in time, whether it's through a journey, whether it's through going through a walk or exercising. So, and you also made me think about, I guess, my childhood about pop punk, because I wasn't a big fan of pop punk, and I automatically think of like Blink 182. I think about Green Day after they hit big. I think about Sum 41. I think about all those bands that like I really wasn't big fans of that you probably were a fan of, because I did kind of like more hard rock and heavy metal. So I wasn't I was in high school in the 2000s. So for me, that was like punk in metal or pop punk. We're not talking about like the Clash. We're not talking about like the real punk, like Iggy Pop and stuff like that. We're talking like the punk that was kind of like mainstreamish. I wasn't quite a fan of it. Now later on, I mean, I could appreciate it, but you got to think, when you're 15 years old, you're thinking about who's your friends are, and so you made me think about my memories of maybe 20 years ago.
I did like with like Metallica and stuff. I like kind of heavy stuff. I like Metallica and System of a Down and stuff like that.
System of a Down just played last night. You're not gonna believe this. Last night in Los Angeles, they had Korn and System of a Down. They're touring together. So if like you were in high school or in junior high from like 1999 to like 2005, your childhood just came back.
Yeah, amazing. I used to love System of a Down. Korn, I've never actually liked Korn that much, but did you have
Korn, I got to be honest, Korn to me, I always looked at it as like they were like the poser band, because they weren't metal, but they kind of came across metal, but they were doing hip hop. They were, so to me, like
it was new metal, wasn't it? Like it was new metal. Basically.
Yeah, and I actually, believe it or not, like I despised new metal more than like punk, because punk to me, I always looked at it like Green Day was a trio. They played their instruments, right? Blink 182 was a trio. They played their instruments, right? You look at Offspring to an extent. They were very punk when they first started. So like Sum 41 even was very much musical in a sense. But I looked at like new metal and those bands like Korn and those bands like Limp Bizkit, and when they first started out, Disturbed, although Disturbed kind of became more metal and they became accepted. But like a lot of those bands, I think about Korn, Jonathan Davis's brother. He was also the singer for a band, Edema, and there was so many other bands that were new metal. Like I just despised new metal. I despised it.
I remember one of my favorite bands when I was younger, and God, I look back and think, God, what was I doing? One of my favorite bands when I was younger was Incubus, and I think,
yeah, pardon me. Well, pardon me while I burst.
But I was like, now I really can't stand them. Like, I mean, I look back and I think maybe I was just like, I don't know, like.
Well, Incubus. You know why everybody liked Incubus?
Incubus was like a very like attractive man, and maybe like.
But you know what? See what you just said. That's why. But that's why Incubus was more accepted because they had the chick magnet as the front man, right? And they weren't heavy. So like Korn was heavy. I mean, even Limp Bizkit at times, like they could be heavy, right? A lot of those new metal bands, like they were like Slipknot was an example. Slipknot was a new metal band when they started out. So you look at a lot of those bands, they were pretty much like aggressive, rah, 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 cookie cutter. Incubus really wasn't. They were kind of like Linkin Park. To me, Linkin Park and Incubus were the bands that kind of were where the kids that were the cool kids liked them, the chicks liked them, and then sort of like the rockers liked them. But that's where those bands, I could see why you liked Incubus and even like Linkin Park. I could see why you liked them because they were accepted by pretty much all the cliques, all the groups. Whereas like Korn, you know, they really weren't. I mean, they were big, but they treaded the line a little bit. So I could see why you liked Incubus. I didn't like them because to me it was like, it just didn't move me because it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't like, it was just mellow. It was very mellow. It was almost like, you know, you said you liked Neil Diamond, and I don't want to go into too much of your music because I want to talk more LWF, but you know how you said you like Neil, like Sweet Caroline 60s music? Incubus was very folk driven. They were very folk, very light guitar hearted.
Yeah, fair. I think I just fancy Brandon Boyd, to be honest with you. He had good hair. I wanted his hair.
Well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, certainly.
So many lads in my school who just wanted to get Brandon Boyd's hair. Do you know what I mean? I even tried to grow their hair out like him.
Well, yeah. Well, for me, you know what it was for me? Everybody wanted to spike their hair and look like System of a Down singer Serge Tanaka. That was what everybody was like, okay, I got to spike my hair and I got to put all the gel in there and make sure it stands up. Listen, I'm sure there's a picture out there where I probably maybe, I want to say like 2002-ish maybe, before I started really growing my hair out because now my parents said I could grow my hair out. I think there might be a photo or two of me like growing my hair out and like spiking it up. And I did. And also there was, I don't know if you remember them or not. They were sort of popular here in the States for a brief period, Static X. And the band, he was like the master of it. He had it like so far up.
He had like a straight beard down as well.
Exactly. Yep. He had the mutton chops all the way down, and he had that spiked hair where he got it so far up. And there were kids that even tried the Wayne Static look. And obviously, God rest his soul because he passed away several years ago. But so even there was that look. So, I mean, listen, we all tried different things. And for me, it got me to the same place, nowhere. But it's gotten me to speak with you. So that's obviously something I'm very excited about. Because if you would have asked me 15 or 20 years ago, or even 3 years ago when I started this, I would be speaking with someone like yourself who's competing to be potentially a world champion. I would have laughed and said, yeah, right. I mean, what are you smoking? I would have probably said, what are you smoking? And what's the prank? But obviously, that's not the case. But I do want to talk also about Helena Razor, because we had Helena on, and I'd be remiss if I didn't get a chance to mention what Helena Razor is meant as a part of the group, and what's it like working alongside her here?
Helena is sick. Yeah, she's great. No, yeah, working with Helena is great. When she first came to the band just after lockdown, or even like during lockdown, I think it was announced during lockdown. And so the first show back, it was great. Like Kate to go like accompany to the ring, like watch her matches was good because it was just like I know, seeing women's wrestling for the first time. I was seeing wrestling live for the first time in ages after lockdown. And then just reminding myself like how because I'd worked with I'd been in shows with Helena before she was in Shining Wizard, but then seeing remembering how talented people are, because you just can completely forget. There's so many people around, you just forget. And then I went out and watched one of her matches from ringside, and I was just like, damn, this is so good. I was just forget, and I was just grateful and happy, she was in Shining Wizard with us. And then as time went on, we got to the point where we had the Mosh Pit Mayhem match, and in that match, it was originally meant to be. It would have been me, Ron, Clash, and Cliff Edge going into that match, but Cliff wasn't cleared for it because Synergy took him out one of the matches prior. Synergy just picked him apart, and he wasn't medically cleared for the match. And we thought we were gonna well, we either don't take this match, which is a main event match. We obviously wanted to do it because we had to settle this stuff with Synergy because this has just gone on every show. Every show we had a run in with them. Every show, it was just it needed to come to a head. So we thought we were going to have to go on 3-on-1 or not take the match. But Helena was just well, I'll step up. I'll come into the match, and I think it's the first time that. It's not the first time that LWF has done intergender wrestling. They have done 6 months. But it was the first time where it was this is one woman in a match where everyone else is men. So obviously she's going to have contact with the other men. There's not a woman on the other team that she's going to wrestle. And this is a violent, hardcore street fight with tables, weapons, anything you can get your hands on. So it was quite radical, for the LWF. But she stepped up, and it was absolutely amazing. She held her own, everyone did in that match. But it was incredible for Helena, somebody who's also, is a mother, and so is somebody who, as I'm sure a very busy home life, having 2 children, and having that chat, that one of them children quite soon before she got back in ring shape to jump back in the ring after lockdown. So it was incredible to work with her in that match, and I remember at the end of it, I loved that match so much because it was everything kind of came together. It was an amazing match. We didn't come up with the win, but we did so well against a team of guys who were twice the size of every one of us. And at the end, Synergy, we did, gave him such a fight that Synergy tipped their hats to us, shook our hand and hugged us, and were like, mate, that was amazing, and it went backstage, and Mikey and Steen, everyone were telling us, that was the best main event we've ever done, stuff like that. Wow. It was incredible. It was so good. It felt amazing. It was Helena was a big part of that, and can't wait for her to win the Riots. Have some gold on Shining Wizard side.
It's it's funny you say that because we look at Shining Wizard and you guys have had a lot of success, but there is a potential here coming up, and this is going to be a great segue because there is a potential for you, obviously, next weekend becoming the #1 contender again, having a shot to claim the LWF championship at the next event from Ronaldo, and Helena could very well win the first ever all-women's Rumble here as a part of the Lancashire Riot, and we could see very well potentially in the near and distant future Helena holding the gold here on the women's side and you holding the gold on the men's side. And listen, forget about the Wrecking Crew being the most dominant group in all of professional wrestling and the LWF. It could be Shining Wizard. So, there is that possibility. And, talk about that now we're going to finally have in the LWF our first ever all-women's Rumble. We talked about it with Steve, and I think it's a really cool thing. It's long overdue. And talk about what your thoughts are on that.
Oh, it's amazing! I can't wait for this. I'm absolutely gassed for it. I'm gonna be watching. I don't care what. Like,
I think you would be watching because I'm
I'm
assuming you're
definitely
going to
watching.
be.
I don't know if we'll be ringside. It usually depends, like whether Wizards ringside depends on a couple of things. It depends on um, the stipulation of the match makes a difference sometimes. If it's like I
Sure.
don't know, it's a multi-man. Sometimes they don't like people at ringside because obviously no disqualification. Obviously this is a rumble, so there's not really disqualification. They don't really like to have people at ringside, but it depends. Sometimes they let you, and it also depends on Helena. Helena sometimes will want us in her corner, and sometimes she'll want to go out there and do it alone. Which I'm the same. Like sometimes I went in TNT with me and Davey. Me and Davey, I like, oh God, it sounds weird that Davey Ghetzky made a gentleman's agreement, but he did and stuck by it. But me and Davey we did make an agreement among ourselves that this was a different promotion. We weren't going to have either Wizard or Wrecking Crew there. They were actually in the crowd, but it's like we can't control that. But we were just like, yeah, they won't be coming to the ring with us, and they won't be in our corner. Because this was was just battering each other. So yeah, it depends on Helena. It depends on Steve on management whether they want us at ringside or not. But I will be watching definitely because it's going to be incredible. And there's a few people that I want to see the dynamic between a few people in that match and how that's going to who's going to eliminate who and who's going to stay to the end, who's going to be the final four. I've got my favorites to win. Like obviously Helena is obviously my number one. She's obviously my pick to win the whole thing. She's going all the way. But I mean, she's got to get through a thick field of absolutely
tough competition. I mean, listen, everybody talked about the Royal Rumbles last week, but I mean, you think about the competition here. We've got Kelly Van Ness. We've got the Israel Melanie Price. We've got Lana Austin. We've got Tonga. I mean, we've got really, really a stacked field as you could find, Aiton. I mean, listen, whoever's going to win this, they're going to definitely win only by the skin of their teeth, really.
He's mad. He's mad. It's insane, man. He's just this stacked field of incredible talent. Like, I mean, like it was like you take Helena out of the picture, like just without say if Helena was competing, my top picks would be like Kelly Van Ness is in there. She's amazing. She's a crowd favorite.
Oh my! She's like the ice. You know what I said, Aiton, last week? I think on the show, I said she's the female Ronaldo.
In a way, yeah, definitely. I definitely see that.
Behind her is big as they're big for Ronaldo. I mean, it's very similar.
For good reason, man. She's like an amazing wrestler and a really entertaining personality. Yeah, she's just absolute legend. And then there's loads of absolute insane talent in this match. There's Tonga's in there. He's incredible.
Tonga's got world championships everywhere. Like everywhere I look, Tonga's all over the place. I mean, Tonga's going to be obviously right up there as a favorite as well.
Future Shock Women's Champion. She's right.
The Odyssey Pro Wrestling World Champion as well. I got to give Odyssey a mention because I do a lot of work with Odyssey. Yeah. She's dominating in Odyssey.
Yep, she's absolutely dominating field in Odyssey. And then we've got Lana as well. I think Lana. I think she's five-time.
Speaking of WCW references there.
No, I think she's 5-time Future Shock Women's Champion. It might be more. No, I don't know. But
he has a large fan base. That's all I'm gonna say. Lana Austin has a huge fan base.
I know. And then there's Alexis Falcon. Again, another former Future Shock Women's Champion.
Yep.
Incredible. Doing great stuff in Progress at the moment as well. I think her and Lana had an incredible match tonight in Manchester. So a Progress. So yeah, it's insane. And then
Progress you've seen on the WWE Network. So clearly they're getting their names out there.
No, definitely. And then there's Mel Price as well. Mel Price, wildcard Mel Price.
You know what? Melanie Price, I said it before we had Helena on. I think she's one of the favorites here. Something tells me because we all know why this is happening. She's actually part and parcel because of why we're having this Rumble. And something tells me that the It Girl, Melanie Price, is going to find a way to be right there to have a shot at this. Something tells me. I don't know, Aiton. I'm not Meltzer. I'm not the dirt sheets. I'm not the bookers. I'm not management. But something tells me that Melanie Price may find her way to pull this out.
Definitely, because this is a match that is suited to Melanie Price, like a Rumble like this is just suited to the smartest person, and Mel is an incredibly smart person, and is also like not blinded by any kind of need to be honourable. Basically,
no, not at all. Not at all. No, Melanie Price is not honest at all. She's definitely not.
I don't think I'm doing Mel dirty by saying that. I'm sure she'd agree with me. She's just going to get the job done whatever way is necessary. But this match suits her down to a T. So I think you need to be watching Mel Price as well. But it's a absolutely insanely dense field. Honourable mention as well to Harley Hudson.
Absolutely.
Who is medically cleared, but she would be again one of my top picks if she.
We spoke about that with Steve, obviously, that she would probably be the person that would be right there in the top 2 or 3 at the least.
Harley's insane. She's gonna go she's gonna go places, man. She's gonna be you'll see her in Stardom in Japan in a couple of years, and it won't be long. She's gonna go places.
I think a lot of people that are going to be wrestling in this event and for the entire card upcoming next Saturday are going to be going places. And we are certainly very excited to see what happens. Obviously, Helena, we're definitely rooting for to do very well. And certainly we are rooting for Aiton Steen, who's going to be a huge part of Saturday's upcoming LWF Riot. He is going to be arguably the main event, a triple threat match, #1 contender to decide who will face off with Ronaldo. He will be wrestling Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew and also Soner Derson, the Turkish Wolf. And we've got another 20 or 25 minutes or so with Aiton Steen. Want to get to a few other things with him. It's a tremendous honor to have him. I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager here of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. And also, again, I want everybody to follow the LWF. I want them to do that on Instagram at the LWF Wrestling. Also want them to follow on Twitter at LWF The. Like the Facebook page, LWF. Also subscribe to the LWF's YouTube page. We have, I think, 400 plus subscribers now. I want everybody also to follow Aiton Steen on Twitter at Aiton Steen. Also, Shining Wizard, please follow on Instagram. Shining_Wizard_LWF, because I can assure you, 2022 very well could be the year of Shining Wizard, because Helena Razor could be the women's champion and Aiton Steen could be the men's champion. So listen, Shining Wizard very well has the chance to be the most dominant group in all of professional wrestling. These are reasons why you need to follow Aiton Steen and Shining Wizard, because like I said, listen, Bloodline doesn't have the women's championship. Shining Wizard might have the women's championship and the men's championship. There is no group in professional wrestling that I can think of right now of the major territories that has a men's and women's champion. And there's a very strong possibility here in the next coming weeks and months that Shining Wizard could have those. And I am sure that Big Ron and Clash are going to get their hands on potentially those tag belts. So who knows? Shining Wizard here in a few short months could have all the gold. It's very well that possible, ladies and gentlemen. These are reasons why you need to follow Aiton Steen and Shining Wizard. Aiton, I got to ask you about 2 wrestlers in particular from the LWF, because we have them on here each and every week. I know they're going to be watching and listening to this, so I have to get your thoughts on them. The first one is the Asset Stephen Cross. The Asset Stephen Cross, he's obviously tangled a little bit with you guys, obviously, at the Fight Before Christmas, because he wasn't quite a member of the Wrecking Crew, but he was a Wrecking Crew member for a day, obviously. And we saw how that unfolded between Mr. Ghetzky and Mr. Shaw. But I want to get, obviously, your perspective on it, because I know Mr. Cross will be listening and watching this. So, Aiton, give me your thoughts on the Asset Stephen Cross.
Yes, I Stephen Cross. Everyone says the same thing about Stephen Cross. I'm not going to repeat. He's just, he's in insane shape, isn't he? But he's in insane shape. But I don't know. It's reducing what he is quite a lot, because he's a mean and bitter bitter man. I mean, I don't have anything specifically against Stephen Cross. You know, I mean, he's actually quite a funny guy, if I'm honest. But in the most kind of like, you know, he's got a short fuse, and he's just a mercenary man. But well, like one thing I do really like, I actually really like about Mr. Cross is that he wrestles a style I quite like. He hits hard, he hits proper, he hits like it's hard. It's actually quite hard to describe. Let me try and see if I can formulate it properly. It's like right when you're used to a certain style of wrestling, like I am like stuff like striking. Like I'm a striking wrestler. You get lots of people like who are more kind of like move wrestlers or more like flippy wrestlers and stuff like that. But I'm a striky wrestler. And you get your training a certain way and you get into like the mode of like striking each other. And you kind of appreciate somebody else's strikes, even though it hurts like absolute hell when somebody like just like wallops you, like you know, but you appreciate it, and that adrenaline starts pumping. You hit it back, which is why I like wrestling people like David Ghetzky. Nathan Gunn as well is another good one for that. David Ghetzky, Nathan Gunn. But me and Nathan Gunn are such good friends. It's
love Nathan Gunn. No, no seriousness. I've continued to say it. I will always continue to praise the scenario of Nathan Gunn because he's got a great personality and he can wrestle in the ring. I mean, he's got a great combination.
If you want to go out for a night on the town, go out with Nathan Gunn and probably J Mac John McKinney as well.
Well, I'm trying to hold back on J Mac because I'm not trying to spoil it just yet. So I will say stay tuned. But the scenario Nathan Gunn, listen, we know his background. I mean, we know he was speaking of musicians, he was a singer. We understand at one point.
He was.
Yeah, so he knows his way around. I mean, and Nathan Gunn knows the ladies. I will say, if there's one thing about the scenario, Nathan, I'm getting a lot of trouble in here. And I've been getting in a lot of trouble the last couple of weeks, Aiton Steen. But Aiton Steen, I know one thing. The scenario Nathan Gunn, if I'm coming to the UK, he's going to help me find the ladies. I can guarantee that for certainties because he knows his way around. I'm probably getting him in a lot of trouble here, but we love Nathan Gunn to death here.
But yeah, he's just my animal, isn't he? But he I love Nathan Gunn. But anyway,
and we love we love Stephen Cross as well. Stephen Cross is a great wrestler. He's somebody, again, like you said, in phenomenal shape. I look at him and he's almost like a cross of just incredible, as Mikey Fitzgerald said in the face, and also body-wise like a Lex Luger because the guy has no % body fat. He's always working out. I mean, we've known him for 7 or 8 months. He's with us every week, and like I don't know how he has the time to speak with us. He always wants to talk, and yet I always see him in the gym. I always see him kicking ass. I mean, I know he likes hip hop, but you guys are more into the rock scene, but that's his thing to help him get motivated. But I mean, again, the acid Stephen Cross, I almost kind of equate him. He's a big Bret Hart fan, so I kind of equate him a little bit to like a Cesaro meets Bret Hart, where he can be very physical, very stiff, but also kind of mix it up a little bit and do some technical things on the floor a little bit. So those are some things I definitely want to recognize. And again, shout out to the acid Stephen Cross. Again, obviously been a huge part of the show and the station here over the past several months. So I got to ask about him, which we just did. And now I got to bring up somebody that has been a huge, huge part, I know, of what's going on here in the LWF. And he sees things a little bit different now, and that is Wildfire Nate Reese. Also, we see him in the LWF Academy, obviously helping out students and train a bit, but he is somebody that I would arguably say is probably the veteran in the locker room. He is the guy that I'm sure a number of different wrestlers go to for advice, and one of those wrestlers that might have went to advice with him isn't seeking advice from him anymore, and that is Bob Costin, because Mr. Costin and Mr. Reese definitely don't see eye to eye, I think it's safe to say. But Aiton, I've got to ask you, because I know he's definitely listening. He's definitely watching this, and he will definitely have a lot to say when I speak to him next, and that is Wildfire Nate Reese. And give me your thoughts on Mr. Reese.
Yeah, Nate Reese is a strange one for me. I think like he I agreed with him. I agreed with him. Like that he should have been getting more opportunities. He did. And it was like heartbreaking seeing him going out there.
It was terrible what he went through with the raffle challenges and open challenges to Balachius, and I mean running in to save Bob Costas. It was goofy. I got to be honest. It was goofy in a bad way, not goofy in a good way.
Well, I think what he had to do what he had to do to get back into the game, and it's like I think he deserved the match. I felt bad for him for that. And he is, he's a veteran of the sport, and he's a great wrestler. I've trained with Nate before. Did we ever cross paths in a match? I don't think we have actually, but I would like to see him out there and wrestling more, but then I don't think turning on poor Bob Costin is the way to go about it. So now my sympathy is dwindling for him because I mean I get it, but he's frustrated. But Bob Costin, we all love Bobby. We all love Bobby Costin. Can't be laying your hand on Bob Costin after the bell. Come on, man. Like Nate, I don't know. I also another one with Nate is like again. All the respect wrestling wise due to him, whatever. But I also I did hear on your show the other day questioning my deserving of this number one contenders match. I don't know where that's come from, but I mean, I was number one contender before, so was Cutter, and Sona was meant to fight for that number one contendership. That's why, and I think. Nate Reese is questioning my deserving of being in that conversation. It's like, well, come back to me when you're not 2-0 or whatever.
Well, it's funny you said that because we did speak quite a bit about that. And that was kind of, I think, the tease to have you here tonight and talk about the match, your journey, and everything else. And certainly Mr. Reese had a few comments about you, and we know he's certainly occupied with Mr. Costin, and apparently Mr. Reese is also going to be a part of the February 12th card upcoming here at the Lancashire Riot, because we know that also Mr. Costin, well, he gave up his spot to Mr. Reese, which I'm still trying to rack my head around. And has anybody done that before, just voluntarily given a spot? But I want to get to Reese after some of those things. I mean, would you like to address Nate Reese? Would you like anything to say to him directly toward that? I know he's occupied with Mr. Costin, and he's occupied about what's in front of him February the 12th. But would you like to address him directly?
Well, I mean, I'm not. I can't put matches, unfortunately. if I was the booker, I would be seeing Nate Reese very soon. But
well, we got Mikey Fitzgerald tomorrow. Should I put in a good word?
maybe. But I mean, I'd love to take a pop at Nate Reese anytime. But like I said, I can't book matches. I can't be. I've got to concentrate on the stuff I've got at the moment.
Oh.
I guess Nate Reese has got to concentrate on Bob Costin, but yeah, maybe ask Mikey about that.
Oh, we'll certainly bring that up tomorrow night, and I'll certainly make sure that Mr. Fitzgerald has that to his attention. And certainly, I know that Mr. Reese is going to have his work cut out for him on February the 12th, because apparently he's going to be a part of the upcoming event here, and he's going to be, I guess, in a match. I mean, I guess he's going to be a part of it in some way. I mean, so I won't ask you on what your thoughts were, Mr. Costin giving up his spot, because that's obviously between the two of them. But I'm going to break it here because I realize our time is coming up, and I want to ask you a few things related to your match before we sign off. And You mentioned J-Mac, John McKinney, and I am going to break it now that you kind of blew my spot a couple of times, but let me officially break it here. Let me officially break it here. Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time. Just a few short days between his own match to settle the score with Lock and Sharp, 2 out of 3 falls. We are going to be speaking with J-Mac, John McKinney, and Aiton. I almost have to ask you then, since we're going to have him here live on Facebook at Tom Bryce, Sportswire Radio, Sports Report X, Northeast Streaming Sports Channel, LinkedIn at Thomas Bryce, YouTube at Sportswire Radio, Twitter at Thomas Bryce 2017, and on sportnarium.com/player radio only. Aiton, set the tables for us on what we can expect from J-Mac, John McKinney.
You can expect an absolute night match of the night contender. He's going to be incredible. Those two guys have got really good chemistry together. Lachlan Sharp is just incredible. My boy, I love Lachlan Sharp so much, so much. He is just a absolute babe, and he's incredible. I like every level. Like, he's technically brilliant. He's character wise, he just goes with it. He's just a natural, man. I mean, I think I think he does have some amateur background. I don't know. I think he has some background elsewhere, maybe BJJ or something like that. But I think he started training and after me, definitely like a little bit after me, and he was up to the level that I was at, super quick. He's just a natural, and then and he's now he's incredible. He's doing amazing stuff in Future Shock and elsewhere, and then LWF, this match with John McKinney, them guys, prior to them falling out and such, they were trained together a lot. They were kind of training partners before this all kind of came to a head at LWF, and so they know each other inside and out. So then they've had this will be the third match in their series to end it, and it's going to be an incredible match. Every one of their matches has been incredible, and the way Lachlan, I chat to Lachlan quite a lot about wrestling. He's got a similar taste in wrestling to me, so we talk about the kind of more serious kind of grappling wrestling stuff, and his ideas are so original and so insane that he's just he never fails to be an insane match with him, an incredible match. McKinney again is from his side of it an amazing performer. Like I said, he's not a gimmick for him. He's not a gimmick. He is that dude playing the acoustic songs down.
He's actually really, really good too. I mean, I've heard some of his music, and he's it's not a joke. I mean, it's not Spinal Tap. It's a legitimate. It's not Milli Vanilli. It's very, very legitimate. He is a really, really good guitarist. He's a really, really good singer. I almost have to ask him. I'm gonna probably make you chuckle. Should I ask him on Wednesday? Can you belt out a tune or two for us?
He will. He will. Ask him to play our theme song. Ask him to play. We're not going to take it.
I'll ask him anything. Listen, I mean, there's nothing I won't ask unless it's profanity. Other than that, because I can't do profanity because I'm on the radio, but I'll ask anything other than that. So, I mean, I might ask him that. I mean, anything else I should ask him?
Let me think about it. I bet I agree. He's like I say, he's not a gimmick with him.
Have you joined him on stage maybe and belted out a tune or two?
He's an amazing artist, but doesn't he just know it? He's the.
I almost have to throw this out there, and now I'm thinking about this. I'm probably going to get myself in a lot of trouble with management. I'm sure Mikey Fitzgerald and Steve Bibby are going to message me right after what I'm about to say, but wouldn't it make sense if J-Mac just performed or created all of the LWF music? Because think about it, right? He's a guitarist, right? He's already a singer. So, I mean, listen, we could keep it in-house. We know that Jim Johnson used to do it for WWE. We know that Jimmy Hart did it for WCW. Instead of coming out to all these different songs from the past and bands already. Why not just have J-Mac record and incorporate all of his music into the LWF and create new music, new fresh music for all of our wrestlers? I mean, wouldn't that make sense? I mean, if I'm Steve Bibby and Mikey Fitz, wouldn't I do that? I mean, I got to ask them that now. I mean, am I going to get in trouble for this, or what do you think?
I feel like if you do that, I'm just going to be walking to the ring to an acoustic version of "Sex Is on Fire" by the Kings of Leon. So like, I don't want to come up. I love J-Mac, but he's not doing my entrance music.
All right. I mean, listen. I mean, I'm sure as a musician, he could play an electric guitar. I'm sure as a musician, he could play the keyboard or the piano. I mean, I've seen his setup, and certainly Mr. McKinney can definitely work an instrument or two. I was just throwing it out there. I'll definitely ask that, though, to Mikey Fitz tomorrow. I'm sure I'll get the same reaction that you just gave, but I'll still ask it because you know what? I mean, somebody will like it. And you know what? I'm sure J-Mac, when he hears this tomorrow night, when I clip it to announce, I'm sure he's going to be so happy to hear it. He's probably going to want to speak to me all night. But you know what? Listen, I mean, I had to ask. But I mean, we're really, really excited. He is a great wrestler. He's also a great guitarist. He's also a great singer. He's not quite Shining Wizard's cup of tea, but he's definitely somebody's cup of tea. And we're going to find that out Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. British Standard Time, here live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and sportnarium.com/players. So I'm excited to speak with J-Mac. Now I'm really excited about J-Mac because now I feel like I've incriminated myself so much and putting so much pressure on this interview, more so than any other one I've done. So we'll certainly see what happens when it comes to that. But I want to ask you this question, Aiton, and give me your goals for 2022.
All right, goals for 2022. I have to think of some. I don't want in particular. Goals for 2022. I've got people I want to wrestle, and this is a very short list, but these are just people. Somebody asked me recently in AQA who I wanted to wrestle, like, and I gave them a list. I gave them a list of people I've wrestled already and people I've got to wrestle in the future and that I wanted. And this is nowhere near doing justice to all the people in the scene because there's so many amazing people that I do want to wrestle. But the people who came to mind straight away, that was a quick answer, was people that I've wrestled before. I wanted to wrestle Nathan Gunn, Lachlan Sharp, JJ Webb, Davey Ghetzky, and who else? Well, Nick Cutter, but I'm already wrestling him. And obviously
Ronaldo, obviously, if you win, duh.
I haven't wrestled Ronaldo yet. These are the people that I have wrestled already.
Right, but you want to wrestle Ronaldo in 2022. That should be a goal, right?
I'll get to that. I'll get to that. It's your horses, right? So, like, those are the people that I have wrestled. Want to wrestle again. Everyone in synergy. Oh, Keenan Krishna.
Oh, Keenan, you know what? Keenan, I see him. He's a big part of KOW. Keenan would be a great match. You and him, I could see tearing the house down.
He's going to be huge, man. Watch out for Keenan Krishna.
Yep.
And then this year, watch out for him. He's going to be absolutely massive. People in the future that I haven't wrestled already that I would like to wrestle. 2-Bit. Chris Ridgway.
I just had 2-Bit on last week. 2-Bit is like really 2-Bit, like in real life. 2-Bit is like 2-Bit.
It is 2-Bit. I trained 2-Bit quite a lot, and he is 2-Bit. I love 2-Bit. So yeah, 2-Bit. Chris Ridgway, who's my main coach.
And you were part of the card at Catch. I'm sure you got a front row seat between Chris and 2-Bit. That I know.
I did. Yeah, I was on that card. I was front row for that match. It was incredible, absolutely incredible. One of the best matches I've seen all year. It was absolutely amazing. That Chris Ridgway, Ethan Allen. One of my favorite matches that I've seen in the past year was 2-Bit versus Dynamite Lee at Catch, which was absolutely incredible. It was the opening match, and it was just it's one of those matches where on that card as well, like the main event was Chris Ridgway versus Scott Oberman, who were two absolutely insane wrestlers, and they had an absolute barn burner. They had an absolute incredible match at the end. and probably like it was as good technically and like storytelling wise as the 2-bit Dynamite Lee match, but just from my preferences and my style of wrestling, what I want from a match and what I look at as like that's my kind of wrestling. 2-bit versus Dynamite Lee was my favorite match by far. Like maybe last year. It's incredible. So yeah, 2-bit definitely. I want to wrestle. I need to wrestle 2-bit. Hopefully next year. So 2-bit. Kelly Van Ness at some point, definitely. It was an intergender opportunity to wrestle Kelly Van Ness, definitely. Harley Hudson as well. Harley Hudson, if that, again, it's picking female talent that I would like to wrestle. And then like Lana Austin as well. We're going down that road. The one. Ronaldo, you mentioned Ronaldo. Ronaldo is another person. I would love to wrestle Ronaldo, whether that is for the title or not. Then who else? Oh, Brady Phillips is someone I would love to wrestle. Who's incredible. Yeah, there's so many. Tom Thelwell, Joe Kessler. I could go on for ages. There's so many people I just want to wrestle.
I have one I'd love to see you in the ring with because he's a huge supporter of mine, and we've had him on for many times over the past year. I'd love to see you in the ring with RPD, the natural born fighter, RP Davis.
I would love to wrestle RPD. I'm just a bit scared of his fists, if I'm honest with you.
Well, Soda Derson found that out. I mean, so that's why I said you might have a good shot here now because, and I said it when we were with Mr. Reese and certainly with Mr. Cross, that Soda Derson, again, after what RPD hit him with, I mean, he could be severely hobbled, to say the least. You might have a very good shot now.
Yeah, definitely. RPD is incredible. I mean, like, but again, like I am like, I mean, I take on a challenge, but absolute fist of fury on that man. I watched the Chris Eubank Jr. Versus Liam Williams match last night, boxing match. Just watching it, I was just like, God, taking so many hits to the head. It's just like, I mean, but yeah, no, RPD. I would love to wrestle RPD. RPD. Rick Marcus as well. Rick Marcus as well is another.
Colombian outlaw, know him very well. Very good friend of ours. Sure.
Incredible wrestler. Oh, Ryan Hunter as well. Ryan Hunter.
Well, he's the Odyssey Pro Wrestling World Champion. So, I mean, listen, that would be an excellent match. Listen, could be, who knows, LWF champion versus Odyssey Pro Wrestling champion.
Yeah.
It could be a possibility. There's a chance. I mean, it could be you.
Could be, yeah. There's so many I could go on.
And RPD, listen, if you win, RPD squaring off April 19th, triple threat match in his own right. If he wins the gold at Odyssey, you could have won the gold by then for the LWF. That could be a champion versus champion match. I mean, there's some possibilities there. I mean, listen, forget about all the things we hear about these other companies and the Forbidden Door. I mean, the Forbidden Door could be open. Odyssey Pro Wrestling versus LWF Pro Wrestling champion. Could be. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself because management's probably listening to this and saying, you know what? We don't want Tom anymore doing LWF talk. So listen, we'll go with whoever else, the BBG wrestling guy. We'll go with him. So
RPD's got a triple threat match. I've got a triple threat match. And usually going into a triple threat match, you've got 33 1/3% chance of winning. But if you take RPD's chance and my chance, and then you put them together, your chances of having a title match drastically go down. Now I can't remember how it goes.
No, I'm going to ask you 2 more questions because we're running out of time. Your odds went up because you have a wounded Soda Derson. So your odds are better than RPD's because he's got his own work cut out between Ryan Hunter and Andre Decker, the unforgettable Andre Decker. So he's got his own problems there. Your hand, you've got Nick Cutter, who you can beat. And then on top of that, you have a very wounded to say the least, Soda Derson. So your odds might be a little better than 33 right now. I can't tell you what the odd is, but it might be a little better for those reasons. But I want to ask you 2 more questions. And the first question I want to ask you is, what do you want to say to anybody that's going to come out here February the 12th to not only watch you and your match, but to everybody who's going to watch the entire card here?
Well, like to the crowd, to everybody who's coming out, thank you for the support. Thank you for supporting the LWS. It's amazing. You guys come and watch what we do. We love doing it. We love like entertaining you, even the heels, even the bad guys. We love doing it. They might give you a load of Garizia or whatever, but like they still love doing it. And yeah, it's I just keep supporting your local indie scene. Keep going and watching these wrestling shows because it's so good. It's like everything I see from Catch, TNT, Future Shock. It's Odyssey. It's all so good. It's just a scene that's growing and growing and growing, and to be part of that, I love it. Like I love it. Like I love going and watching wrestling shows. We got Catch tomorrow. Catch is on tomorrow. I'll be watching that because it's incredible. Like it's great to see these people performing. So much talent in the northwest of England at the moment. It's incredible. It was kind of like a point where I realized I don't know how it happened. Like it was like I don't know if it was just like a build up after lockdown or something, or like I think it was basically a lot of wrestling training companies folding for obvious reasons during after the lockdown, and so a lot of people were thrown together like in like the same like places. So we all got to like see each other like ordinarily you wouldn't really like have seen like some people from like up in Barrow and up like down in people from Liverpool came over to Manchester over to Liverpool, and we had to mix a lot more. And you just realised, like, it was like a point where I just realised I was like, God, this scene is so talented. Like, I mean, I knew it anyway. I knew everyone was like really talented, but like I think it's more talented than any other scene. Like I might be
This
mean
is
to
what
say,
I've been saying. I'm glad you're
like
confirming what
it's
I've
more
said for
talented
like
than
7
any other
months now.
scene. Like in the world, I'm just like, this is incredible. This is like, like this the amount of talent here. Like it's just like in this room. Like I go to training, like. And the amount of talent in the room is just like, I'm just like, this is insane. This is an insane amount of talent in this room. It's just like, this is incredible. It's insane when, like, like, you go into a room full of wrestlers and they're like, everyone in that room is as good or better than people you're watching on AEW or the WWE, NXT UK. That's insane, but it happens. I turn up at like one of Chris Ridgway's classes, and I'm just like, these guys are next level. Like why am I watching these guys on TV? Well, I am watching them on Progress, but like on national TV, it's insane. So much talent.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's incredible. What has come here, this scene has exploded. I remember talking during COVID and people were like, "Ah, well, why would you talk about what the scene is?" I'm like, "No, trust me. I knew during the pandemic when wrestling would resume here that this scene was going to go through leaps and bounds and just explode like a rocket." And that's to me what it has done, and that's why I love talking this scene here. Listen, there's people that want to just talk WWE, AEW. I'd rather talk more about what you guys are doing, whether it's in the LWF, whether it's in Odyssey, whether it's in Catch or Progress, KOW. You name a company, GT Ministries we're working with next. I mean, so I would rather talk with these companies far more because I just see what you guys are doing, the talent that you have, what you bring in, the energy to the room. It's incredible. And just keep doing what you're doing. It's a tremendous honor to have you here. But before I get closing thoughts from you, I want to ask you this question. I ask it to everybody here, Aiton, that I have on, whether it's in wrestling, whether it's sports, whether it's news, because we do news as well and other things. And I want to ask you for your career. And I know you got a lot of moments. I know you've been a part of some big things, but give me 1 or 2 moments in your career so far that stand out most.
Oh right. Moments, definitely the Mosh Pit Mayhem match. Diving off the balcony, Rana and Keenan out of the ring was something that I always wanted to do on somebody. It's a really dangerous spot, but I was like, I'm happy at Keenan. It was he survived. And it was that was just an incredible match, incredible feeling. The whole thing it was amazing. When I made my debut, that was a great match. So it was on my team. It was actually it was Lachlan Sharp and Nathan Gunn when I debuted. We teamed together. A long time ago now. That was great as well. And then the first time I main evented a show, that was incredible. In like a losing effort to Synergy, and taking the title, that was incredible. Other moments, seeing Ronaldo win the title was incredible. That was like a heartwarming moment, a tear-jerking moment. Even laying there on the floor, sort of like banged my head on the ring apron after I just done a dive out of the ring. Like, this is really sweet. Ronaldo's kids getting in the ring and everything. Yeah, that was great. That was amazing. Doing TNT with Davey, with Davey Ghetzky, going there and doing our match, and it being the one-on-one match, no interference. Like, it was, we went out there and we did what we were set out to do. We put on that card to put on a show and showcase the LWF, and we did. And we were professionals. And we went out there, and it was no schmuck, no schmutz, no schmuzz. It was just we just battered each other. We just battered each other like for like 10 minutes straight. That was amazing. Then Catch as well. Catch was great. Catch working with Big T, is something I'd always wanted to do. And Dave Birch, and the crew there, that was amazing. Like, working with those guys. That was so good. Even though T turned on us in the end, it was great to work with T.
Well, Big T's gonna have his own problems because next weekend he's wrestling Franco Vargas. So we'll see.
I've seen. Well, man, Franco Vargas gonna have problems too, man. T's legit 7 foot. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, but Franco Vargas has a win over Chris Masters. I mean, he beat the guy that nobody could get out of the Master Lock from. So, I mean, Franco Vargas has wins over WWE champions. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to see. I mean, that's going to certainly be a behemoth of a matchup. We'll also see Franco Vargas February the 12th at the upcoming LWF Lancashire Riot. So we'll see what happens there when it comes to Franco Vargas. But most importantly, these are reasons why Aiton Steen is somebody that's going to have not just 1 or 2 moments in his career. He's going to have 5, 6, 7, 8 moments. And one of those moments very well could be coming up here this Saturday at the LWF's upcoming Lancashire Riot. He'll be in the ring against Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew and also Soda Derson, the Turkish Wolf. The #1 contenders match, triple threat to decide who will square off with Ronaldo for his championship. You can follow the LWF on Twitter at LWF, Instagram, the LWF Wrestling. Also like the LWF's Facebook page and subscribe to their YouTube page. And Aiton, I want to give you the floor, my friend. I want to give you some closing thoughts. Any social media you want to plug that we haven't plugged, and anything else you want to say to anybody that's watching and listening to this? I can't thank you enough for this opportunity, and I want to give you the floor, my friend, and I can't thank you enough, and fire away.
Thank you. So I'll plug my social media first, I guess. You can follow me, Aiton Steen, on Instagram. It is just Aiton Steen. It's Aiton, that's the name. And then follow the LWF. Follow everyone else, follow Catch, TNT, everything. If you get an opportunity to go see an LWF show, come see LWF this week on Saturday. Then come watch Future Shock on Sunday as well. Catch is sold out tomorrow, but come to the next Catch show, which is in March. I think it's Monday, maybe the 7th. But yeah, the Monday Night Catch and their other shows, come to them. They're amazing shows, massive wealth of talent on those shows as well. And keep an eye on the LWF and everything they're doing. Yeah, just support them because they're lovely guys. You know, Steve, Mikey, I can't say enough good things about them. They're lovely. They've always been great to me and great to all the other performers. Yeah, this is closing statements. That's it. You asked about goals. I don't know. Like, goals for next year is just to wrestle more people, more amazing people, and have more great matches. Oh, and I did have one specific goal that I put the other day. It's quite a crazy one, but TNT run a tournament every year, the DOA tournament. It just happened last week. It happened on Thursday, the deathmatch tournament. And next year, my goal is to enter that tournament and do a death match. At least one, if I get through the first round, I do a death match. Get into the whole brutal side of wrestling. Yeah, so that's it. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. It's all good.
Well, speaking of death matches, we'll see a lot of CCW influences, I'm sure, when it comes to that. I'm sure we'll see a lot of, God rest his soul, New Jack influences when I think of death matches and barbed wire and explosions. I mean, all that Mick Foley, Terry Funk will throw in there. So we'll see. But in the meantime, you can see Aiton Steen upcoming this Saturday at the LWF's Lancashire Riot. He'll be in the ring against Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew and Sona Derson, the Turkish Wolf. So make sure you get out there and watch Aiton and follow Aiton again on Instagram at Aiton Steen as well. So Aiton, it's been a tremendous honor. I can't thank you enough. I hope to have you on maybe after the match next week, and maybe we'll set the tables here if it's going to be you and Ronaldo, but we'll certainly see. Love to have you on anytime, and keep up the great work. Congratulations on all the success, and we'll speak with you soon.
Thank you, Rev. I'll see you later.
As we're here on the Sports Report, the number one global sports show with pro wrestling star here on the LWF, that's Aiton Steen of Shining Wizard, who's going to be a part of a huge matchup coming up again, once again, this Saturday for the Lancashire Riot. He'll be up against Nick Cutter of the Wrecking Crew, also Sona Derson, the Turkish Wolf. You can follow Aiton Steen on Instagram at Aiton Steen, also LWF on Instagram, the LWF Wrestling, Twitter, LWF like the Facebook page, LWF, subscribe to the LWF page, as I am the host of the Sports Report and the station manager of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryson. Good night, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m. British Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time with Mikey Fitz. We'll talk more LWF. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about Aiton Steen's comments and much, much more, along with J-Mac, John McKinney. We'll be back with him Wednesday night, 8:30 British Standard Time. Thank you, everyone. If you're on sportnarium.com/player, you'll get some new content. I haven't figured out what it is yet, but we'll store it in a little while and we'll schedule it. So we'll go from there. And thank you, everyone, and have a good night.